U.S. debt just crossed $34 trillion. We're adding $1 trillion every 90 days. What does this tell us about where we are and where the end game is, in your opinion?
Yeah, this is, I mean, and to me, the amount of spending is just unbelievable. I'm sure your listeners, they know well the difference between a million, billion, and a trillion. So I'll save time by not going into that. But if you don't understand the difference between a million, a billion, and a trillion, look up how the difference of that exponential gain goes.
It's 1,000x every time.
So yeah, I mean, it is just, it's astonishing. The difference between a million, a billion, and a trillion.
Yeah, maybe we could put up the visual. If editors are listening to this, there's a guy standing next to a pallet of cash. I think it's a million is the pallet. And then, 1,000 pallets or whatever is a billion. And then it shows a trillion's like multiple football fields. Yeah.
And I actually like time because Bitcoin is that time and energy preserver. But the million seconds is like 3 days. Fact check me on this, but and a billion seconds is like 30 years.
There you go.
So million to billion is 3 days to 30 years. There
you go.
And then a billion to a trillion is 30,000 years.
Wow. Crazy.
30,000 years. So it's exponential, and that's where we're at. We have $1 trillion every 90 days, but it equates to a $3 trillion, roughly $3 trillion deficit.
Yeah. And
people don't understand that when you take that and you keep compounding it, and then you pay interest on it, and don't forget about the unfunded liabilities. There's 220 trillion. People say, oh, 34 trillion in debt. How about the promises to pay the unfunded liabilities of $220 trillion? And we have the helicopter money. We are in the final stages of this currency's life cycle. If we don't take the proper monetary and fiscal steps, which at this point are not responsible decisions, it is a radical change, then we will see hyperinflation. We will see a loss of trust, right? The trust trend is clear. You trust the government more today or more yesterday. Maybe with the new administration here in the United States, there's a little bit of a bounce in that trust, but the trend is very clear, especially on a global scale. And when you look at what options we have, you look at the United States of America and you say, what the heck can we put on our balance sheet? We have a problem. We have assets and we have liabilities. Our liabilities are outgrowing our assets at a pace that we've never seen before, that is unsustainable, that sets off all the warning bells and whistles that something needs to change. So what can we add to the asset side of the balance sheet to offset the liability growth? And the traditional economic answer to that is growth. But no, we're not getting growth. Our debt to GDP keeps growing. That's what's growing, not the economy. The debt to GDP is growing. So you can't take that dollar that you're borrowing and spend it into the economy and let assets outgrow liabilities. You can't take that dollar and spend it into our natural resources. Sure, you can tap into that, but it's going to take a decade or more to actually start to see some positive cash flow from that. What can you take the dollar and put it into to increase the asset side of our balance sheet faster than liabilities? Bitcoin, engineered money, because the faster those liabilities grow, the more faster the value is driven into Bitcoin. Bitcoin on the asset side of our balance sheet in a strategic Bitcoin reserve can offset liability growth. And as we transition from commodity cycle to credit cycle to money cycle, it will not just offset, it will pay it off. That's what we need. That's how important this is. There is no other asset in the world that we can invest in to put on the asset side of our balance sheet to not only offset liability growth, but to outpace liability growth. This is a once in a lifetime, once in humanity, once in civilization opportunity to right the wrongs of our previous decisions and to escape a death spiral that should be inescapable. But because of this discovery, because of this invention, because of this 40 plus years of work that went into finding the first form of money, the perfect form of money, if we adopt it, we can right the wrongs of previous generations. If we ignore it, then we're destined to enter into that death spiral where the quality of life and standard of living will fall off a cliff like we've seen in any other society that had to go through that experience.
Yeah, man, it's so accurate. Bitcoin as the invention of money itself, right? There's never been a pure money. There's never been an asset that's 100% monetary premium, period. right? It's just Bitcoin. And meanwhile, when we could be adopting this thing as a means of neutralizing righting all the wrongs, as you said, we're dicking around with the XRP National Cryptocurrency Initiative and like all this stupid shitcoin stuff. It's like, I'm blown away. I'm not. I'm actually not surprised at all. But what am I? I'm a little bit sad for all the people that got their hopes up. You know, I saw a lot of people really getting their hopes up. I was at the Bitcoin conference when Trump spoke, and even Bitcoiners who you typically think are smart people, they get totally swept up in all the political fervor and like, yeah, it's really going to happen. It's going to change. And rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, just don't trust a politician because it's not going to fly.
I have two points.
We're going to get some version of it, but like, what version of it are we going to get? Do you think?
I have two versions. One is I think, or at least I'm honestly I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I'm hoping and praying that this is the art of the deal.
Okay.
Because whenever you go into it, Trump is a businessman, right? And he doesn't like being told what to do. We said strategic Bitcoin reserve. He said sovereign wealth fund, right? You tell him one thing, he doesn't know. That's what makes him a leader. He'll listen to you, he'll learn, but he's going to do it his own way. So I'm hoping and praying that this is the art of the deal. And what do I mean by that? Trump can't go in. People hate this guy, right? That's why they call it Trump derangement syndrome.
Sure.
So
something him and Bitcoin have in common, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Everything orange is bad.
Yeah.
So he goes in and he asks for a Bitcoin strategic reserve. What are they going to say to him? No, because they have to fight him on everything. If he goes in and says, you know, I want Bitcoin, I want Ether, I want XRP, I want Cardano, I want Solana, well, then they can actually come back and say, this guy's a fool. We only need Bitcoin. We don't need this other stuff. Trump is way off basis here. Even his followers are wrong on this one. We're going to say no to Cardano and Solana and XRP and Ethereum. And we're going to say yes to Bitcoin because Bitcoin is a commodity and there's no issuer of it and we should hold reserves of it. And then Trump goes, all right, that's sufficient. That's fine. Right. So they walk away thinking they're the winner. Yeah, we told that guy, he's a fool. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He tried to put all those shit coins in there. We had to stand up and tell him, no, come back to reality. We don't need those in reserves. Now, if you want to invest into those with the sovereign wealth fund, then so be it. But when it comes to reserves, we only need Bitcoin. And now all those people who hate him think that they were the ones who said no, and they were the ones who put him in line. Meanwhile, he's laughing all the way back to the Oval Office because he got what he wanted. Now, that's just complete speculation on my point.
That's a really good tactic, and I've heard people say that before, that, often in leadership roles, you need to try to make people think it was their idea. Right? Like if you're bringing an idea into the room, it's like, don't bring it into the room and here it is. It's like you need to create the conditions that they can come to that conclusion on their own.
A lot of time at the state level, you'll bring a bill. And what we found is that as you lobby, you never bring one bill. You bring 4 or 5. Because if you bring one bill, it will take 3 to 4 times as long to actually get it heard. But if you bring 4 or 5, people, they love going, no. Oh, interesting. So that's the art of the deal. And I'm hoping and praying that's what's going on here now, because there's absolutely no reason to hold a cryptocurrency that has a centralized issuer with unlimited supply and no money characteristics.
We already have that with the Fed, right? Don't we have enough of that?
Yeah, exactly. We don't need the whole another 7
we already
trillion
have
of printed
coins.
things,
we don't
right?
need any more. Yeah.
So, but the secondary thing to this, and I think this goes back to the monetary monopoly. It goes back to those who have control of the financial system. They understand the power of free market money, free market interest rates, and free market yield curve. That's the real financial revolution. It's not just about the money. It's about the yield curve, and it's about control of interest rates. And because they understand the power of decentralized finance, I like to call it BitFi, Bitcoin finance, because that's what it really is. Yeah. But I think that they did a really good job of taking shit coins and making it about collectibles and art and memes and all this stupid worthless stuff. And our enemies are laughing and celebrating right now because we allowed that to happen. We lost the bigger picture. We fought for the free market money, but we didn't want to fight for the free market yield curve and interest rates, it doesn't make sense. I'm a Bitcoin maxi. I self-identify as a Bitcoin maxi, and I'm offended if anybody doesn't call me a Bitcoin maxi. And if you think I'm not a Bitcoin maxi, let me sign my wallet address, and let's see who is more bullish on Bitcoin, okay?
Are those your pronouns?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm Bitcoin. So, but what does that mean? It means that Bitcoin is money, it's engineered money, it's perfect money, it's the first form of the discovery of money, and we don't need it again. Anything that competes with Bitcoin as money is a scam, and you stay a million miles away from it. But when you have digital gold, and then you start to realize, well, it's not just about free market money, it's about free market yield curve, free market interest rates. That means you need to transform, you need to evolve that gold into pristine collateral. And we can't increase block size to do that because you lose decentralization. So you need L2. Gold needed an L2, it was the paper notes. They worked fantastically. Bitcoin needs an L2. Unfortunately, it's been turned into meme coin, scam coin central and the wild, wild west because the powers that be wanted to drive it that direction. But in my opinion, it is okay to have Bitcoin as money, as savings. And remember, savings is not investment, but you can invest in some of these other L2 technologies or L1 technologies that act as an L2 for Bitcoin because it transforms it from digital gold to pristine collateral. I don't want to have to take my engineered money, my pristine collateral, and trust a banker as my counterparty. I'd much rather have smart contract risk where I can read every single line of that code. And if it gets exploited, okay, it gets exploited. That's why you don't save in the gas to these systems.
Right.
It's just a gas. If gas gets wasted, it gets wasted. I was a participant in the explosion of decentralized finance. I wish I invested, but I just had put money in to play around, like all the people there. Everybody there was in the early days. Nobody was investing in DeFi. It was just putting in some money and seeing how these things work because, whoa, Bitcoin's getting a big upgrade. We're going to be able to have smart contract capability with Bitcoin as the collateral. And that's what it was about. It was about transforming Bitcoin from digital gold to pristine collateral. And it's still about that today. It's not about art. It's not about memes. It's not about collectibles. It's about taking this free market money and empowering the world with free market yield curve and free market interest rates. We no longer have to depend on a central bank to tell us what the price of money is. That's a price control. If they don't want them to tell you what the price of milk and eggs are, you should not allow them or want them to tell you what the price of money is.
100%.
And decentralized finance enables this. It enables this. And I think there's going to be centralized and decentralized solutions, and there should be, because the problems within the marketplace, there's so much nuance that you can't, it's like Sailor. There's so much, he has to have the convertibles, he has the ATMs, now he has the preferreds, because each pool of capital faces a different problem and needs a different solution to solve that problem. And that's what Bitcoin is, and that's what L2s for Bitcoin are. We need to get rid of this idea. Like, yes, be a Bitcoin maxi because nothing else can be money. But you know what? Be a freedom maxi and stop letting people tell you what the price of money is and let us build the technology and tools that we need to free the interest rate and the yield curve so that we can have a real economy where we can actually gauge when the economy is too hot, when the economy is cold. We can actually get real economic data to help us build a stronger society and move forward as humanity. We can't do that when you're using fake numbers.
Dude, amen. Amen. What a rant. And I've always found it to be quite hypocritical that we praise free markets so much in the West. But you know, I spoke at the ARC conference, for instance, in 2023, and I was talking about central banking as the central planning of money. I'm like, how do you guys, like one of the pillars of ARC is like free markets. And I'm like, why is no one talking about central banking here? Like, we have central planning in the market for money. Why are none of you talking about this? In 5 days, I've listened to all of you talk. No one's mentioned it once. And I'm just met with blank stares. And I'm like, I guess we're just outside the Overton window. The people just haven't, and it's not complicated. It's like, we know central planning sucks everywhere. Why would we think money is somehow the exception? It's like, oh, literally fails everywhere but money, it's great. It's a great idea. It's just absolutely absurd. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money. And be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.